Hey, how's everyone doing?
Great.
Everyone having fun? ITV?
Yeah.
ITV? So I'll start with a little bit about myself and then introduce the wonderful panel we have here for you. This is my second year doing ITV, and this panel is going to focus on New England filmmaking. And you know, it's really.
We'll start there.
We'll start there.
Yeah.
We'll start there. It's gonna go elsewhere, as you can see. So I'm Dave Wedge. My background is I was a journalist for 20 years, reporter at the Boston Herald for 14 years. In 2013, when the bombs went off in Boston, I was the lead reporter on that for the Herald, the Boston Herald, and I ended up writing a book about that called Boston Strong, and that was turned into the movie Patriots Day, which starred Mark Wahlberg, that came out earlier this year. And that was all filmed in Boston. So, you know, I can talk a little bit about that experience as we get going, filming in Boston and all the stuff that goes into that. My new book just came out. It's called The Ice Bucket Challenge, Pete Frates and the Fight Against ALS. It's about Pete Frates, a Boston College kid who basically started the Ice Bucket Challenge. And we're right at the goal line on locking down a film on that. So that's going to be exciting. We're hoping to film that one in New England too. So to my left here is Bobby Farrelly. Hello, Bob. Thanks for being here, Bobby.
Yeah.
Want to give a little thumbnail introduction?
Well, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm from Rhode Island originally. I grew up. My brother Peter and I grew up there, and we went out to LA and we made a bunch of movies. You know, we wrote screenplays for a long time, and then finally we decided to direct one because nothing was getting made, and that one was Dumb and Dumber. So that was 1994. And we made a bunch of movies since then. You know, There's Something About Mary and a whole bunch more. And Chris Meyer has helped us along the way as a producing partner. And last year when I was here, I had the pleasure to meet Jenna Lorenzo, who had written a script called Les Bomb, and I read it and I thought, wow, that's really cool. It's about a girl who comes out of the closet to her family at home over the Thanksgiving holidays, and it's a comedy, it's very funny, and it had a lot of like a big fat Greek wedding feel to it. And Jenna had written it, stars in it, and directed it. So that's a triple threat right there. We met here last year, and in the interim, she made that movie, and I came on as an executive producer to help her along the way. So pretty excited about that. We met here in New England, up here in Vermont, but she shot it in. Just to be clear, she did shoot it in her hometown in New Jersey.
ITV success story, though.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Great cast.
Yeah. Cloris Leachman, Bruce Dern,
Nice.
Steve Gutenberg.
Kevin Pollak. Yeah, very good cast. And really nice. We're very happy with it. She's 2 weeks away from basically locking picture and hopefully selling it. You know,
Awesome.
We haven't brought it to market yet, but she's been working on it ever since, and I've sort of been helping her along the way where I could.
Very much so.
I'm going to turn it over to Jenna.
Yeah. Oh, what else should I say?
So what's your background, Jenna? If you want to tell us a little bit where you grew up and how you get into this line of work.
Totally. I'm from New Jersey, and I've been writing for a long time. It took me a very long time to make this movie. I'd say 6 years. And we shot it in my parents' house, and we shot it at my mom's motel. I will never be allowed to do any of that again. That was a one-time thing. When I met Bobby at ITVFest last year, it was really fortunate because when we shot the movie, we shot it very quickly between Thanksgiving and Christmas with a massive ensemble cast with a very restricted schedule. So there was a lot of phone calls. If he wasn't there, I called him. I was like, I don't know. We have like 3 hours to shoot 12 people around a table. What would you do? And he was kind enough to answer my calls and be there.
I wasn't, but then I came to set too. I wasn't there the whole time.
Yeah, and then he came at set. It was amazing. It was incredible. And then always, and during the editing process, Bobby was kind enough to sit with me and the editor for like weeks until we had something that made sense.
So,
Yeah.
well, we all look forward to seeing the finished product, and hopefully it'll be released widely soon.
Yeah.
So we got here.
I got a little sneak peek, so when it comes out, you guys need to go see it.
Oh yeah.
It's a very good movie.
So this gentleman here is Chris Meyer, a good friend of mine, another Boston College product like myself. Chris grew up in Quincy, Mass, and he, as Bobby mentioned, he's produced a ton of movies with Bobby and also on his own. Most recently, Chris did The Do-Over with Adam Sandler and David Spade, which was a Netflix, one of Adam Sandler's 4-picture deal with Netflix. He did a 4-picture, $40 million deal with 40 million? 80? Sorry, 80.
That's 80.
I stand
It's
corrected.
divisible by 4.
Yeah, I doubled that. So, and then he did this past year. He did Super Troopers 2. So why don't you tell a little bit about that, Chris?
Super Troopers 2 was shot in Massachusetts. Interestingly enough, it takes place in Vermont, so knock on wood, we can bring hopefully the third one back to Vermont. Shot it in Hopkinton and outside of Boston, and have a great cast. In addition to those of you guys who have seen the first one, it's the same cast, but we have Rob Lowe and Adam Devine, Jim Gaffigan, Linda Carter, the original Wonder Woman. Those are the youngsters, and
Cool.
Brian Cox, who was in The Ringer, that Bobby produced, and it comes out on 4/20, April 18, 2018.
Pretty good day for that
That's
one,
a
right?
great day.
I'll start with Chris. So again, the topic here is New England filmmaking. We have a panel here of people that have done a ton of really great projects in and around New England. So Chris, when you're shooting Super Troopers 2, what did you filmed all over the country really. How was that experience? How's the current status of the filmmaking infrastructure in Massachusetts right now?
Right now, I don't. It can almost not get any better. You know, I mean, when Bobby and I originally shot Fever Pitch in 2004, we shot. You know, I don't know if you've seen it, but we shot at Fenway Park for 9 days. We originally would have made the entire movie in Massachusetts had they had the tax credit there. However, we had to move to Toronto, and we shot the next 3 months in Toronto. A year later, the Massachusetts state, the tax credit was put into place, and since then, it's been booming. Like right now, The Equalizer is being shot there, Slender Man, Wolverine was shot there this year.
They just did Proud Mary with
Yeah, Proud Mary, Chappaquiddick. There's a lot of incredible filmmakers and incredible film base there.
Yeah.
And we're lucky. It's just been nice that we're from there, so it's convenient that we know a lot of the crew, and we bring a lot of crew in with us that we've been working with forever. But it's been an incredible experience.
Yeah, like on Fever Pitch, as you mentioned, of course the whole story is set in Boston, so you might ask, why would you go to Toronto when it's set in Boston? It's like, well, the simple reason is because the studio or whoever's paying for it is going to save about $2 or $3 million by going up there because it's cheaper. They're paying Canadian dollars, which is cheaper than American dollars, so the whole crew and everything is getting paid on a different scale, and it's just they save that money. So filmmakers like us really don't have the say where we're like, well, it has to be in Boston because it's a Boston story. They'll say, no, you shoot it in Atlanta, or you shoot it here, or shoot it there. It's like, you're going to shoot it where you're going to save the most money. It doesn't really matter where the story's, the story itself is set. It's like you're going to film in one of these locations where we can save money. So that's what's great about Boston now, is that we do have these tax credits.
I was going to say
Or Massachusetts.
to Bob and Pete, Bob's brother Pete, to their credit as directors, the one argument they stuck to was that we can't make the entire movie in Toronto. They wanted to shoot at Toronto at the Blue Jays Stadium, which is an indoor arena in blue, and they wanted us to paint all the seats red to make it look like Fenway Park, which that's just not going to work. So we were lucky enough to get
Fenway
9
Park.
days.
Fenway Park's kind of hard to duplicate.
Could you imagine the Red Sox fans' chagrin if that had been the case?
Yeah. Paint the seats red, put up a couple flags, and
That's
looks like
not
the same
Fenway.
thing.
That's not Fenway. What was some of your most memorable experiences filming in Massachusetts?
Well, certainly,
Or in New England.
Fever Pitch. obviously, because we were in Fenway, and it was in 2004, and the Red Sox won the World Series for the first time. So we were there during all that filming, and it was wildly exciting, and but stressful too, because they were in a pennant drive. And I don't even know how they allowed us to do it, but we were there.
I remember, sorry.
You
During it
guys
all.
had to rewrite the script, right?
The script was never supposed to be about them winning the World Series. It was supposed to be about the guy who loves the team so much that he was going to believe in them again, even though they break his heart for the 20th time in a row.
The fans were not happy. We had, in some of the most crucial games en route, we had to take about 30 season ticket holders to put us and the crew in there. And they didn't really care if we were making a movie or not. They were throwing beers at us, screaming at us like, I don't care what you're doing. Get your asses out of there. But just in regards to Vermont, this is quite a while ago now, but we shot Me, Myself, and Irene in Vermont.
We did. We shot in Burlington, Vermont for an entire summer. And it was.
Shoot the whole movie up there?
We shot. The story was about a Rhode Island state trooper, so we had to shoot a little bit in Rhode Island, also down in Newport. It was a great shoot. It was all in New England. We started in Rhode Island for a couple of weeks, and then went to Burlington for like 8 more weeks or 9 weeks, and we spent the whole summer up there. And it was just probably the most fun we ever had. Just 'cause it was like being on like in a vacation area. Burlington is just gorgeous. You're on, Lake Champlain, and it was just, the weather was perfect, and everyone was having fun. It was fun. It was a fun set, and on a comedy, it's good when everyone's having fun because it's a light feeling, and and people can try things,
Yeah.
and you want it to be light, and where people are not afraid to try things.
Yeah. Well, I think, being here in Vermont for this festival, and anyone that, who's been to ITV before? You've been before? This is my second year. I think Chris been here 3 or 4 years. Bobby's been here 3 or 4 years. I just see it growing. And I selfishly wrote a story for Stratton Magazine that's all around town right now. It's the 30th anniversary of the film Baby Boom, which was Diane Keaton. It's like kind of a classic 80s movie that was filmed all around this area. And now they're about to open a soundstage in Weston, Vermont, which is about 20 minutes from here. State-of-the-art soundstage. And I think their target for that soundstage is going to be kind of films like your size budget, like under 10 million.
Can't wait to
Her
see it.
budget was $500,000.
Right.
Which she got a lot out of. It's a lot of money, $500,000.
Yeah.
It's hard to raise it, believe me, believe her. But to have someone write you a check for that amount of money is not
He
easy.
he didn't write me personally a check.
Nonetheless, that's roughly what it costs, right?
I think what it all adds up to is that, there's a lot of opportunity in New England for filmmakers now, especially with the technology and all that stuff, where maybe you don't have to be in LA full-time like you used to. What do you think about that idea of kind of filmmaking wherever you are?
I think like in Jenna's case,
The weather in LA.
you never went to LA
Yeah.
to get to raise
Yeah.
your money, right?
No, but I do think that the weather conditions in LA are predictable. And in the East Coast, you don't have that predictability. Like, you're fighting blizzards.
It is a
rain.
reminder. That's why people went to LA a long time ago and started.
Because they knew it was always nice out.
Because they have 325 days of sunshine here.
Yeah.
And here we have like, what, 25 days? Today's one of them. No, you don't have the same weather.
Yeah.
You battle weather problems.
Yeah, we
big
had
time.
2 blizzards.
When you were filming?
Yeah, and so I was woken at 6 a.m. one morning from the line producer, and I'm like, I hadn't slept at all, and she was like, "Oh, baby girl, did you look out the window?" I'm like, "No." And she's like, "You got to rewrite all the stuff we were shooting today."
Oh.
Yeah, the whole thing. We had 6 feet of snow.
The story takes place on Thanksgiving Day, and so it's a one day.
And that's 6 feet of
Story-wise, it's only one day.
Yeah.
And she had already shot a lot of
Yeah.
outdoor scenes and all that.
And
so-
then, the second blizzard we had, my 1 day off, I was with my mother, my not my actor mother, my real mother, and my wife. We went to the motel with hot water, and we were throwing it to try to melt the ice and snow so the exterior would match what we had shot.
Did that work?
Sort of.
We'll see,
De-ice?
right?
The de-ice?
Yeah. The what?
We'll see.
Yeah.
Just hold it off.
Yeah.
Chris, how about yourself? You got any, besides Fever Pitch? Was Kingpin? You guys, anyone see Kingpin?
That was in,
You guys, where'd you guys shoot that? Pittsburgh? Okay.
We did. We shot in Pittsburgh, and you know, a lot of my brother and I's stories are road trips. So they start in one place and go to somewhere else, you know, story-wise. And then in that story, it started in Amish country. So we shot around Pittsburgh, and but they go to Reno, Nevada. So we had to go there too. So it's kind of fun when you do that, where you have two different locations, because you can shoot in one place for a while, and then you just pack up and go somewhere else and shoot. It makes it a lot of fun.
Is that harder for, you know, what I learned through the whole Patriots Day experience, and now what I'm going through with the Ice Bucket Challenge project? The budget is obviously, that's the end-all be-all. So when you're selling a project like that, where you might have multiple locations to shoot, how do you negotiate that with the studio? Is that a tough sell?
Well, it's going to definitely affect the budget, and what they're going to try to get you to do is to hire a whole new crew when you go to the new area, so that they don't have to put everyone in the crew up at a hotel, because obviously crews don't live in two places. So if you go to Boston, you use a Boston crew as much as you can, because they live there. And so the studio doesn't have to pay the hotel, flights, per diem, you know, all that stuff that they'd have to pay if they're a crew from out of town. But when you're traveling, you know, we like to use the same crew, just because, you know, you really have you have a team
Consistency,
feeling to it.
yeah.
So we used to be able to get away with it. I don't know if we could anymore, just because people are so budget conscious now that you'd have to be careful with a company move.
and on micro budgets or smaller budgets like Jenna's, it's even a tighter thing. So the less, you know, the less locations you have, the cheaper it is. You don't have to make company moves. You know, I mean, I use Paranormal Activity as an example, but they rented two houses side by side. Put the crew and everybody in one house, and they shot the next one. And they went back and forth every day.
That seems like a good way to do it.
Yeah, for it to be budget, you know, fiscally responsible as filmmakers, you know, that's what you need to do. But the more times you move, the more locations, it gets very costly, because you're moving 200 people, you're moving 50 vehicles, tractor trailers. I mean, you know, we move the whole circus down the street. That takes hours, you know.
Do either one of you guys have an example of the most complicated shoot that you ever dealt with? Like a real challenge, something that was, I know you've told me some stories about crew juggling and all that stuff, and just dealing with the chaos that goes on in a crew.
Well, I thought maybe one of those days was Fever Pitch.
Yeah, you don't want to keep harping on Fever Pitch, but obviously just shooting at Fenway and then going up to Toronto, and then we actually followed the team when they were on the road on games, and they were in St. Louis, and so there was a lot of travel involved.
How many people would travel on a shoot like that when you were
We
going
bring what, you know,
to shoot there?
we call a skeleton crew. Like, we bring obviously our director of photography and a couple of his key people, but you got to bring the hair and makeup, and you got to bring you know, sound and all that. So, you know, I mean, on a typical movie shoot, it might be, you know, over 100 people, you know, on set. But when you're on a travel day like that, we'll probably bring somewhere around 15 to 20.
But from a logistics standpoint, we were shooting while there was a baseball game going on. And there's 40,000 rabid fans, and us trying to yell action and cut and try to get people to be quiet, and they don't care you're there. I remember Bobby, you know, we had this huge scene, I don't know if you remember, at the end where, you know, Drew Barrymore's running out at the end of the scene. And
She jumps off the green monster?
yeah, and Johnny Damon's there and all this, but prior to that, we're in the tunnel, and it's a close game, and everyone's funneling to where we're all coming out, but nobody could move. And one of my jobs is to know where all the actors are at all times, you know, for the directors, you know. And I couldn't even hear these guys screaming at me, "Where is Drew? Where is Drew?" There's 30,000 people screaming. Meanwhile, she was right behind me. You know, I mean, that's very difficult to do, because it's an uncontrolled.
Yeah, I remember one of the
situation.
One of the other producers says, "We can do this. We can do this. They shot the Titanic. We can do this." I'm like, yeah, but they didn't shoot it when it was sinking. You know, they recreated it.
What are some other films that you worked on that shot in Massachusetts, Chris, either with Bobby or separate?
I shot
Or in New England?
an independent film called On Broadway for $1 million. A great cast. Elijah Dushku, Amy Poehler, Will Arnett, Michael Malley. Great Boston, a lot of local guys. It was great. That was one. That was the
What year
second
was
movie
that?
out of the tax credit. So that was 10 years ago.
Okay. And that was shot specifically because of the tax credits?
Yes.
Can one of you guys mind explaining the tax, do you guys want to hear about how the tax credits work? Does that interest anybody here? We don't have to bog you down on it, but it might be good. Do you want to explain how it works, Chris?
If you understand it, I'd be impressed. Because I don't.
I understand it a little bit, but
It makes it cheaper.
Yeah.
If the budget was $20 million for a movie, you know, that's a lot of money, and they give you a 20% tax credit, that means 20%, 20 million, like you're saving $4 million. Now it becomes a $16 million movie to the studio. Well, how does that happen? The state of Massachusetts actually gives the studio
A rebate.
$4 million of what they call tax credits, and it's sort of like cash. And what the studio does with those is they sell them to Wall Street or something like that.
Yeah,
They're
they
like-
sell it on the open market to
they
corporations.
sell it to someone who needs a tax credit, who has paying like too much taxes, so they buy these things, and it's a little
It's
complicated.
basically
but
a
that's-
tax break, is what it is, right? And different
To
states
drive
have,
business there,
And
right?
different states have different rates.
Yeah, 25%.
25%.
They're giving you
More of a
money.
Danica
They're
question.
giving you money to come and shoot there, as
You get a
opposed to
check?
bringing it someone else. The studio will get
Studio will get a
check
tax.
in the form of what they call a tax
Tax
credit.
credit.
Yeah. Otherwise, you have to go to Georgia or Louisiana or somewhere else, and by bringing all the crew there and all the people and putting all the people in town to work, they figure that it's worth it. You know, they're selling hotel rooms, it's restaurants, it's this and that. And it's like
So the accountants get their.
somehow or another the
do all
state
the math.
determines that it's good
trickles
business
down.
for the state.
You know, I mean, you whether it's a $6 million project, $60 million project, or even the equalizers a $200 million project, all that money's going to trickle into the restaurants and hotels and everybody that's there.
Well, that's the big controversy with it, is in the media and in the legislature itself. You know, Governor Baker of Massachusetts has tried to cut it.
Yeah.
I believe it's 25 right now, and I think that they were trying to cut it to 15. And basically, my understanding from the producers I've worked with, that's a deal killer. That's that. Like, no more shooting. And I was looking this morning on the Mass Film Office website. There's 20 productions in Massachusetts this year, major ones, like, you know, all the ones you just named. And
Well, some
those go away.
states, when they have above the line, they don't have stipulations that sometimes above the line.
Do you know what, we better explain what above the line means.
Above the line, like all the upper management and the actors, or anyone that's making real, you know, getting a big salary, a lot of times they're not affected by the tax credit. So, you know, you might have a $20 million movie, but Tom Cruise is making 15 of that. So they're only getting taxed on the 10 million, not the 15. So in some states are trying to make corrections because you're not really bringing in a $25 million movie. You're really bringing in a $10 million movie. So that's a lot, from what I understand, you know, that's a lot of the gripe with some states.
Where are the payroll taxes paid? Are they paid where the studio's offices are?
No, where the work's done.
Yeah,
This is paid where the work's done?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Massachusetts still gets those payroll taxes?
yes.
Yes.
For all the crew and everybody?
I mean,
Yes.
sometimes we all work it's like being an athlete. You know, they get paid in each state they play in. Same with the entertainment players. If you're traveling to different states, we all pay taxes in 8 different states. If we're going to, you know, you pay
State income taxes.
Besides
Many different states.
all of our own selfish interests of we want to shoot locally, do you guys believe that the tax incentives are a good use of government resources? Do you think it's a fair deal?
You know, we're not accountants, so it's hard to say, but I know one thing, like in the state of Georgia, they came out with some very aggressive tax credits for the film industry, better than Massachusetts. But what they don't have is they don't have the beauty of Massachusetts. They don't have in New England. They don't have the oceans and the mountains and all that. Instead, it's kind of like the same look all over. But because of the tax credits they gave, they've taken probably at least half the business that used to be shot in Hollywood or elsewhere is shot there now.
Yeah.
So I think for them, it's like they brought in a lot of people. A lot of people move there. A lot of people, are working there.
Stimulated the economy.
I think the hotels are all full. The restaurants are full.
I think the number is about $7 billion that the film and entertainment business brings.
7 billion?
$7 billion into Atlanta, into the state of Georgia.
Wow. So they're number 2 basically, it's Hollywood and then,
Yeah, the cost of doing business
More
there is
films are
cheaper.
shot in Atlanta than Hollywood.
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of TV shot
New York.
in Hollywood, but they don't shoot many films there anymore, if any.
If you had your preference to shoot, where do you want to shoot?
I like to shoot at home, in New England.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
But I
Trey
like
Williams
being-
said last night.
Right.
He said, if we can stay here in Manchester and the area, get my own bed every night, I'm good.
But like Jenna will tell you again, I'll go back to the weather. It's going to frustrate you as a filmmaker that you're. It's tough. It's a jigsaw puzzle when the rain. Every
not
day you have to match scenes, and it really helps when weather's predictable.
Well, so with Patriots Day, one of the big issues, they obviously with a film like that, there was no option but to film it here. There was some talk at some point about filming some of it in Arizona, but yeah, they were going to film it. They were going to build They were actually going to shoot some of the Boylston. They were going to rebuild Boylston Street in Arizona to get that scene away from Boston. There was a big concern with, obviously re-traumatizing people with recreating.
Sensitivity.
The sensitivity is right. So what they ended up doing was there was a decommissioned Air Force base in Weymouth, Massachusetts, and they rebuilt Boylston Street there. They literally, it's still there actually if you go down there, and that's where they filmed it. And I remember they were also filming Stronger at the same time, which Stronger just came out. That's the Jeff Bauman movie. It's a marathon film as well. And they, I believe, used some of that same set. So the soundstage thing, there's not the soundstage facilities in the built-in infrastructure. There's some, but not enough. How do you get around that? When you're filming a big production here, like when you're doing Super Troopers 2 or something, you need a soundstage. How do you figure out where to do it?
Well, we have locations managers, right? And the line producers help us out with all that. But here's an example when Bobby and I were in Atlanta, because there's so much work being done there was no soundstage for us. All the best sound stages in every warehouse in town were being used and had been being used for a long time. By the time we got there, we were in an old Hendry's ice cream plant.
Right.
That's insane, right? We weren't
You make your own sound.
We weren't there for too long, but yeah.
We did that in Pittsburgh when we shot Kingpin. They don't have anything close to resembling a sound stage there, so we had to go into some old, really cold, dank, drippy warehouse and just try to make it as soundproof as we can. But it's you just make do.
I know. So my co-author on Boston Strong was a guy named Casey Sherman. And before we did Boston Strong together, he wrote a book called The Finest Hours, which was made into a film with Casey Affleck and Chris Pine. It was a Disney movie, and they did something like that. They took an old vacant. It was a Herb Chambers. It was a shipyard, but most recently they've been used to store used cars. And this was just a big vacant warehouse. And they took it and they turned it into. They built like a 300-yard long ocean basically simulator. And they built the ship inside that, and that's where they built the whole thing. So I think you got to get pretty creative when you're doing these projects to fit into your budget, right?
Yes, you do. Mm-hmm.
Back to the weather, no, it's an inconvenience, but the biggest thing is it's costly. So when Jenna's trying to make her movie, the snowstorm comes in.
Yeah.
Everything
Two
gets pushed to
snowstorms.
two
We only
snowstorms.
shot for 15 days.
Yeah.
So 2 snowstorms.
It was too blizzard. I have to say that that sucked. However, I feel like my 2 favorite scenes in the movie came out of having to rewrite because of the blizzard.
Yeah.
So
That's exactly what happens. Is
Yeah.
things don't go as you plan, and somehow or another, sometimes hopefully it comes out better than you hope because of that.
Yeah.
That's what you have to do is take your your misfortunes and try to spin them around somehow. Let's take advantage of this.
yeah.
If you can do that, that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll never hit it again.
What are the next steps for the film? And then I'll follow that up with, what did you learn most from working with Bobby?
Well, we are 2 weeks out from being completely done with the colors done, and sound will be done in 2 weeks. And then the next steps we'll start meeting with sales reps and blah, 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 blah.
We're trying to get in some festivals too, but we don't have anything lined up yet.
Yeah, we have a few plans in place, and it's throwing a lot of spaghetti. And then, what was the other?
What did you learn most from working with Bobby?
I would say, I don't know, there's a lot there. In the editing room, I felt like that's where I was able to understand the way Bobby processes story and articulating what serves a story and what's extraneous and which scenes potentially would resonate most for the audience. And since the story is so personal, I felt like it was really important to have that objectivity in what the audience will respond to. And then also hearing allowing moments to breathe, because people will laugh here, and then you want that time for people to stop laughing so they don't miss the next line, and stuff that I just hadn't thought about.
Pacing.
Yeah.
Well, you know, they say that when you make a movie, you make it 3 times. That you make it when you write it, the script, you make it when you film the movie, and then you make it again when you edit the movie. And there's 3 different, from start to finish, everything can change completely. Now, when I met Jenna last year, she had already written the script, and it's pretty autobiographical. It's, close enough, right? So it's her story. So I had some comments to you about the script, but
Right.
it wasn't much, it was a great script, and that's what I responded to, is I like this story. There wasn't much I could do there. The making of the film, she's directing it, she's acting in it. She has 15 days, and they're shooting 9 pages a day. My brother and I shoot 3 pages a day. Okay, so, they're really hustling. There's not much I can do to get in the way. Whatever I was attempt to tell her, I'd be slowing her down. So just let her do it. But in the editing room, we had more time to go over everything that you have, and let's weave this all together in the way that to make the best movie we can possibly make. So I definitely spent a lot more time with you there.
Right. Yeah, but you came to set, and one of the days you were not on set was, I felt like we had to shoot this scene where there's everyone is on screen, and it was 10 degrees out, and I had the actors out in this freezing cold, and we just had 3 hours to get all of the coverage, and I don't know what to do. And so I called Bobby and I was like, well, what would you do? And he was explaining what he thought would facilitate the best way to get all the coverage and not have it negatively impact the script.
Yeah, I was amazed when we were doing Patriots Day, and Pete Berg was the director. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Pete Berg.
Yeah, he's a good director. Friday
Night Lights. He did Deepwater Horizon. Did Lone Survivor. Bunch of great movies. And I had only been on a few sets before that, but what I saw was incredible. The amount of footage that he shot. He shot so much footage, and from every angle, and cameras just roll the whole time. He never turns them off.
Right. We don't shoot a film anymore, so it's nowadays you can just keep the cameras rolling.
It going, and then, what I saw on set, and then what I saw in the final version, I remembered how he was manipulating that, and he was editing it while he was shooting it. He was thinking of how he was going to edit it while he was shooting it. It was pretty interesting to watch the way he works.
Well, once you're there and you get the crew
fast,
and you get everything, it's you're silly not to be shooting it all from different angles and all that, just because that's cheap. That's cheap.
Right.
Once you're already there and the crew's there and the hair and makeup's been done and everything, it's just put 2 or 3 extra cameras and shoot it from different angles and all that, and it really does help you in the editing room, piecing the story together to have a lot of coverage.
So I'm not letting Bobby get out of here without asking about my favorite movie, which I talk about with Chris all the time, Outside Providence. Can you talk a little bit about that shoot? Anyone familiar with Outside Providence? You know that movie? Mary. Only Mary? Come on. Great movie. If you haven't seen it, watch it.
It was a smaller movie for us. You know, a lot of the movies we did were big
That was
studio pictures.
After Something About Mary?
It came right after There's Something About Mary, yes. And it was a smaller movie. It was independently financed, just kind of like Jenna's movie. And my brother, it was from my brother Peter's book, which he had written about his experience in prep school. And it was called Outside Providence. And so he and I and this other gentleman, Michael Carenti, wrote the screenplay, and we let Michael Carenti direct it. And my brother, Pete and I produced it. So it was a little bit different for us.
Why did you choose Carenti instead of you guys directing that one?
Because we didn't, it was an independent movie. It had a different feel to it. It wasn't our tone. It wasn't. We had made Dumb and Dumber, Kingpin, and There's Something About Mary, and so it wasn't that type of humor, and so we just, we were happy just producing it. And also, he was very passionate about it. He loved it, and so the passion, when someone's passionate about something, that's a huge thing. That was the only movie that we ever did that way, where we sort of raised the money through doctors and dentists and that kind of thing, and we ended up selling it to. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, a guy named Harvey Weinstein at Miramax.
There it is.
So
There it is, everyone.
That was our experience with Harvey. The only time we worked with him.
Where did you shoot that?
We shot the entire movie in Providence.
All in Providence?
Providence, Rhode Island, yep.
Alec Baldwin, right?
Yeah. Can you tell the Alec Baldwin, you have an Alec Baldwin story?
Well, Alec,
Alec Baldwin's,
somebody had to play the dad, and again, it was one of those movies where there wasn't a lot to pay people. So unless they really responded to the script, they're not going to get big stars, because big stars want big money. So it had that thing where people had to work for less, and but we needed a really good actor for the dad, and someone said, Alec Baldwin might be good. Now at that particular time in his career, Alec had sort of had gotten a bad reputation in town. He had gotten into a fight with Sir Anthony Hopkins on a movie set, okay? And so people are like, ooh, that's bad. And he was at that point where it's like he might not be getting any more calls, because he had come across like he was difficult to work with, okay? Yeah. And when we called him, he was like, he read it and he said, he really responded to the role, and he came on board, and man, was he awesome. He was
great.
He was a joy to work with. I think he gave a really, really good performance, and I think in some way it just got him thinking this is fun. He's a great actor, and he should be acting. He shouldn't be not acting because people won't hire him. Right. He's meant to act, and I think after that everything took off for him again.
So you saved Alec Baldwin.
I think so.
Well, SNL thanks you. We're going to open it up to some questions, I believe. So is there a format here? Just let people, we just take questions?
Yeah, you go.
Okay, great. So, go ahead.
Jenna, I'm just curious about what your experience was starring in it and directing yourself. Did you have a co-director, or were you fully?
No, I didn't have a co-director. I think that it was a challenge at times, but my DP and I we've worked together so often that if I felt like I didn't have it, I would just make it clear that we didn't, and he would do the same thing. I felt like some of the more intimate scenes, it was if we were getting one side of someone's close up, and I would have been behind the monitor, I just couldn't do that because I would need to give the other performer what they needed, and we just didn't have the luxury of time to review footage all the time. So a lot of it felt like playing sports, when you just feel when it either goes in the basket or it doesn't, and you kind of have to, for me, I had to trust whether or not it felt honest, and then move on.
This gentleman?
Any anecdotes from working with Jim Carrey or other actors?
Well, Jim is he's incredible. He's a genius, comedic. But you know what? He's a genius, period. He really is. He's an incredibly smart person and very talented. People don't even know this. He's an artist. One time he took a year off from acting. We were calling him up, I'm just doing a little art. And he called us in to see it, and he had painted 200 paintings, sculptures, like in 1 year. And I gotta tell you something, they're unbelievably good. He never sold one. He's got like
Did he give you one?
no. I told you it's a little unusual. No, I wanted to buy one off him. I wouldn't. I don't think I want to sell it. Like he's an unusual guy, but he's so much fun to work with because he'd give you so much more than maybe you were even hoping for when you wrote the character. Like he's just that guy that takes it to a different level. He's a fantastic actor.
It's Virginia. I know I've only done 2 films, so I'm sort of you back when, but I'm a bit older. But I'm really attached to my AD, my producer, my DP. I love these people and I really trust them.
Right.
And were you able to did you have a team like that? Were you able to bring everyone with you, or was it just your DP? Or?
My DP and editor were people that I had worked with forever, and so it was important for me to have them on like part of the team. And like my editor, like I feel like there were times where it was a challenge because it was all of our first features, and there were times where it really, really served the project. And the times that it served the project definitely outweighed the times that it was challenging. Yeah.
Back there?
I was just wondering about the attitude about when you're filming a comedy or a drama comedy with actors and how you stick to the script and when you improvise, let them improvise.
That is a good question. And I think a lot of people do want to know that, like how much did Jim Carrey improvise, or that sort of thing. Our general feeling is we spend so much time working on the script, and we go through it with the actor before we shoot. So when we get there that day, we've already been through it, but we're always trying to figure out how do we make it better than we had hoped that day. So our general philosophy is let's shoot what we have, let's shoot what's there, and as we're shooting it, generally like someone comes up with something and you're like, okay, great. So you figure it out ways to change it, to make it better on the day. But we always do want to make sure that we at least shot what was there, but aspire to make it even better somehow.
We have to wrap up there. Hopefully next year we're all back, and hopefully your film is going to be out by then. Hopefully you'll have some new stuff.
Yeah.
And keep making films in New England and hopefully Vermont. So thank everybody for being here.